Is it on? Oh yeah, it's on. Um, could you please all be seated, the people that need to be seated, so I can start? Yes, there we go. Welcome, everybody. Um, Before I start doing everything, I want to take you through how this podcast is going to be done. So first from 7 o'clock, but it's already not 7 o'clock anymore. My plan initially was to start with a short introduction. I will tell you a little bit about the structure of the podcast, which I will be doing directly. But before I go there, I would also like to point out that I have divided the podcast in topics, just to make sure that all the criticism that has been received is also being put under a certain theme that we could also tackle, because the goal is also to have a concrete or specific goal at the end, by the end of this podcast. After every topic, there will be a live Q&A, which means that people from in the audience can react to the answers and responses from the school. The first topic was accountability. The second topic is going to be community, and I believe all of you know why. And we also want to make sure that the live audience, or next to the live audience, the online audience also has a part in which they could address their criticism. And obviously, last but not least, the closing. And what the closing really entails, I will be sharing with you later on. But before I start delving into the topics, I would like to take you through the structure of how this podcast is going to be, or this conversation is going to take place. I will be leading the conversation. I shall bring you the topics. All the topics have been formulated with the criticism that I have received, because I also think it's impossible to bring in topics as a single person. So I did this together with my editorial committee, which I will be talking about a little bit later. I shall be appointing the members of the school and ask them to answer the question. As I said earlier already, the audience is allowed to react on the statements given by the school and the responses during the Q&A. And this is the reason for this is to make sure that I can engage in a conversation and bring in the questions. And every criticism you have, you can either write it down or wait until the mic is being presented to you so you can say it out loud. And one thing I also want to say is, if you don't feel comfortable mentioning your name, please don't. I just want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable. Since there is also an online audience, I can imagine that, we just want to speak freely as we can, but we might not just want to be mentioned, which is also something I'll be taking into account with every criticism that has been formulated, in order also to protect the people. I'm here to speak for the people. I've spoken with the people, so it's not me standing here as a person, but it's me working together with the community and standing here with the community as well. I already told that the host will present the mic to the guest who would like to comment. So, before I really start, I would like to introduce myself as well, because some of you already know me. My name is Sohaila Omar. I've worked here in the past. I'm using the past tense because at this moment it's not really sure what my position is, but my position as a human being is very clear for me, so that's also the reason why I decided to come here today. I'm not by myself here today. I have an editorial committee. The editorial committee is formed with two online moderators, which is Goran and Janet. I have my lovely videographer, which is Lucie, and Lucia. She will be here for emotional support as well. As you know, we are trying to strive for a safer space, because using the word safe is quite hard to do if you cannot guarantee that it's going to be completely safe. But more on that later. And in the back, I have two lovely hosts who have welcomed you already, Ricardo van Dachterop and Ash. And last but not least, the editor-in-chief, which is Zoe. So I've worked with all of these people to put this moderation down because when I was asked, I was doubting, am I the person to do this? But then I started talking with people around me, and I noticed it's not me. It is not I that should be on the foreground. It is me and my team. So the people that are bringing everything forward as good as we can. That is that. So I already also stated the reason a little bit. And if it's unclear, please raise your hand, ask me anything, hold me accountable, because we are all human beings and I'm open to learn. All right. Before I continue with the topics, I would like to introduce the members of the school. First up is Lon. Lon is the head of HR. Has been working here for 3 years, and I think with a lot of joy as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. And is there anything you would like to add yourself?
No.
Oh, all right. And Jochem. Jochem is one of the owners, and I say one of the because that's something that's in my mind and how I see it as well, and I believe more people from the community as well. But maybe there is the rest you can add yourself.
Yeah, maybe it's good to point out that I founded this company 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, the company exists for a long time already, but the school, as it is right now, and I'm the owner together with my business partner, but for personal reasons he couldn't be here, and he also stopped a few weeks ago immediately, and I have to add that also myself I will take a step back in a couple of months, and see it as my role to guide this process also into a new team and a new structure for the future. But as I am the last accountable board person, my role is financial director. I want to emphasize that I'm the one, and I'm accompanied by Lon and Luc, but accountability-wise,
It's you.
it's
All right.
me for the full.
Primarily. All right, good to know. And last but not least, Luc. You all know him as the booker and sometimes even as the face of the school. He has been working here for
4.5 years.
4.5 years.
4.5.
Going towards 5. And is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I think like first day, I think you started with a group of 4 initially, the school, and then I think first was also shortly working with another booker, but then that didn't work out. They asked me, so I got involved before the school opened, when part of the plan was already there, and then I set up the first few nights and did the bookings from that moment, and then the first 2 years I did it by myself, of course with the help of the team and input of everyone, and then after 2 years we started doing the bookings with 2 people, which was the case until the club closed at the beginning of March.
All right, thank you. Before I continue, one thing that was a bit unclear also for the people in the community was, why is the school doing this podcast? So I would like to ask you to also state the aim of this podcast, because that's something that not I shouldn't be formulating it, or me and the editorial team are not the ones who should be formulating it. So if you would like to answer, I'm going to start with you, Jochem, since you're also one of the responsible people here.
Yeah, for me, the first thing is to get the narrative away from Instagram, because I think communicating with each other is really important, and I think it all started on the socials, but for me it's really good to be in contact and communicate with the community, and like the accountability, like we also have to explain, like for the outside world it looked like, what the hell did you do the last 5 or 6 weeks, and maybe we can clarify that.
Yeah, and what are your feelings about it? What Jochem just said, Lon and Luc.
Well, I think I can find myself in Jochem's words, but I think it's important that this discussion is also on social media, because for a lot of people it is a medium or a place where they can, they can speak up, because it's quite difficult to come in here and then open the door and say, hey, I want to say something. So I really understand why people use social media. And also for now, I really like it that we're doing this podcast here, that we can be accountable here, that we can have the conversation, but also in the future, social media should be part of the accountability part.
And you, Luc?
I think we were working on new plans for the school with the team, but in the beginning we were doing this with a rush, and we felt that that was sort of freezing us, and we couldn't move forward, and we realized that we didn't really have the framework and the groundwork to move forward, because there was criticism that hadn't been addressed properly, and I felt like us as three responsible that we should face the criticism first, also as people, and sit there as people and explain why we did the things we do over the past 4 years, and then also give the chance to already explain a bit what the plans are going to be, but also express some doubts or things we're working on. I think the most important is as people to face the criticism and say, like, this part, I can say something about it because this was maybe my blind spot.
All right. Then I'm going to continue with the processing of the criticism live and online. As you can see, you all have notepads. The reason why I decided to do this in this way is just to make sure that if you don't feel comfortable standing up and giving your live criticism, that there is still a way for you to hand in your criticism. And the editorial committee that I have formed will also be the people to look at this criticism and possibly bring points that are important forward. However, we will only bring them forward as soon as we see that the school, in this case, you three, are also putting in the work, because it's not completely up to us to do the work, present it, have you talk about it, and then that's it. That's not how we work. So this will be tackled later, also due to the amount of limited time, but fear not, it will be tackled. The relevant comments from the online audience, as I said already, because people are also listening online, they will be presented during the Part 4 Q&A live stream. And I say relevant, what I mean with that is every point that hasn't been brought forward already by the people here, but have been brought forward online, will be addressed as well, because we want to make sure that people online also feel that they are heard and listened to. And as I said, my two beautiful online moderators will be taking up that task. Additional information. As you can see, I said this is a safer space. What is meant with that? What is meant with this is a safer space is that the aim here is to learn and hold each other accountable in a respectful and a civil manner. I would want to ask everybody to not cuss each other out, but really try to be critical and formulate your criticism without attacking someone's being, because now we're here to talk about actions. And if we are striving to make it as comfortable as we can, however, if this is not the case, the moderation shall be terminated until further notice, because we want to make this clear for everybody, because I'm also a human being and a woman of color. We're going to continue with accountability. As you know, everyone has been talking about this. The school has tried to take the criticism they received into account and be held accountable. However, it wasn't working. It wasn't working the way we as the community thought it should be working. So this is why we're going to address it in this way as well. What do I mean with accountability? What is meant, again, is how can the school be held accountable when it comes to organization? So organization meaning the company structure and the responsibility you have as a company towards your community. Because you know, you're inviting people into your house, your place, your club, your establishment, and if you do not know what kind of responsibility you're carrying, How could you protect them or be there for them? Next to that, the most important thing is also communication. What the actual criticism is, I will delve into that later. But for now, what it means is, in what way does the school communicate internally and externally about and towards the community? What I mean with about is, do we feel that we are engaged? Do we feel that we are taken into account when the school is talking? Or is this something that's not really happening? Accountability organization. I'm going to present a few questions that comes directly from the received criticism. So this is not something I formulated. This is something that has been formulated by the community. The only thing I did was assemble it and put it under a topic. The first thing I see, or the first point of action, is why do you keep waiting with presenting a plan? Or, you know, affirmative action. Really show us that you're talking about affirmative action, but you're also demonstrating affirmative action. And why is it taking so long to do something with this? I'm going to direct it to Jochem, obviously, because everyone could see it coming.
First of all, I think I have to say that we take it all very seriously, and the only thing we wanted to do is do a good job. And we've been thinking about what to do, and is at that same time the criticism came from the inside as well, like not only from the outside on the internet, but also from the inside. And we had some organizational problems, big problems. So
could you enlighten us a little bit about what do you actually mean when you say organizational problems?
Well, first of all, partly that my partner also he had to leave because of his personal issues. And next to that, the criticism was coming from the inside, and we didn't know really how to deal with it, and at the same time communicating to the outside world. So we had to fix from the inside first as well. So we communicated, give us some time, we're working on it, but of course it was not enough in the end. And
because I hear you say that you didn't really know, but what are your thoughts on it, Luc and Lon, when we were talking about knowing and not knowing how to tackle a problem?
I think if I look back on the last weeks and when we started since the 1st of June, we have been seeing racism as incidents instead of structural problem, and that's of course because we are a full white organization, and we have a lot of blind spots and we didn't see it. And I think lots of people in the past, like internally staff, but also externally people from the community through emails and sometimes also online on social media, have been saying this to us, but we haven't seen that. And I think last weeks, why did it take so long? Well, because we're super white and we first had to, yeah, that sounds really stupid, but we first had to see that in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this process took so long too.
Okay, and you, Luc?
Yeah, I think on the 1st of June, on the day of I think it was the 1st of June, the protests in Amsterdam, where we didn't acknowledge that at all, and then in a way try to solve it with a post. And I think that's was also a way of like treating it as incidents, like, oh, we did a bad post, how can we turn this into a good post? And it took us, I think, 1 or 2 weeks with really talking with the staff to see that something like internally was very wrong and people's voices were not heard, and that we couldn't present a plan because first of all we didn't have the management. Second of all, we realized we have these blind spots, we didn't listen to them, so we needed those conversations first, and then also people from staff demanded their voice to be heard and to be included in the conversation. It was only then when we could start to engage with it, because we didn't have the language or the
All right.
framework.
Which leads me to my following question. Because you're not a club that has been existing since the beginning of June. This is a club that has been existing what, since which year? Because I haven't been here for long myself.
2016.
2016. So
Yeah.
we're not only talking about this year, we're also talking about the previous years. And what I'm hearing is that never ever did it occur to you, or did the incidents somewhere form the pattern that you could see this is not just about Black Lives Matter and this event. This is a way bigger problem within our structure, within our organization. And what are the protocols I would like to talk about now that might help you, or the protocols you've been using up until now that also led to these problems at some point, or actually at every point?
Well, I think most of that criticism or complaints ended up people sending an email to the info at the school email address, and
But take it a bit further, because I'm not necessarily talking about just now, but back in the day, as in maybe a year ago, where also employees stepped forward, or visitors already, made a complaint about being racially profiled, which is an actual thing. I would like to hear a little bit more about that. So not necessarily how this started in June and how it led to this event, because I also think, or also what I've seen people saying from the community is that they really don't support this idea of a podcast because they feel it's you sending again. So that's why I would like to refer a little bit back into the past, so we could actually also get to the root and see if we can have a specific goal at the end, which we might tackle.
Do you want to say something first, or shall I say?
No, go first.
Thing. I think the honest answer would be that this protocol, it wasn't there, and that's something that really should be there before the club reopens. I think the protocol was to that if people said, I think first of all, actually, that people. We now find out that a lot of people felt like they couldn't send in their complaints. They didn't feel like it was a safe space to send their complaint to. So I think what we should do now is make a protocol explicit, make sure that the policy is online, and make sure that people know that if they send in something, or if they want to talk about something, that it's not handled by one person, or that it goes to one anonymous email address, but that it goes to a group of people that I hope they feel they can trust.
Yeah, and I mean, Jochem, you carry the most responsibility, and you also are the person who, can make you stay or go, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I wanted to add to Luc that we treated everything like incidents, and especially right now, there's more coming up, and we also talk about the future, and we think, oh, how could we have we been so blind? There's it were no incidents. It's
No. And do you think it only has to do with the fact that you're white?
well, I think for a good part, yes, and maybe not even me being white, but the whole organization, because the stuff that was talked about, that was the people who had the confidence to step up to us, and there's so much hidden behind that, like people who didn't even have the confidence.
Because did you want to?
No.
Okay. Because one thing I'm also reading is that the people who spoke up, it wasn't really appreciated. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? That I might understand, I guess, that if you're only in a complete white environment, that it might be hard to see that there are other people as well. Not that I'm condoning it, because I, as a person, see everyone as a person. However, how did this happen, that people did step forward, but they walked away feeling that it's not appreciated, and sometimes even that they were nagging? I can imagine that if something traumatic happens to me regarding to my ethnicity, color, sex, whatever, that I wouldn't want people, or that I wouldn't want to walk away from a conversation feeling unappreciated or like nagging. So could you tell all three of you, actually, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think if I look back, for instance, if I give an example, for instance, there has been a lot of criticism also on our security before, and I saw it in the online comments, but it's not the only it's not the only time that it has been mentioned. And if I look at myself and also having people speaking up to me, often when we discussed it, it was often like, yeah, how do you say weggewuifd? Like, yeah,
It's unimportant.
yeah, it's just like our security. It's just how it is in a way, and that's also part of that. We treated like incidents like there were no alarm bells going on. It was just like, oh, this is just happening now, and then tomorrow it's better or something. Yeah, that's
Okay, we'll get back to that a bit later, because one comment I also found quite interesting, and I'm also going to bring it forward, was that your business has been built on excluding people of color while protecting and uplifting your own. And as long as you continue to build businesses this way, centered around whiteness from the ground up, rather than facilitating long denied opportunities for black people and people of color, how can we ensure that this doesn't stay the case as it is now, because this is the case now? How are we going to change that within this organization? What are you, for example, what's a concrete thing you could do, Jochem?
Well, for me, also a part of it is taking a step aside and create space for people, and also, since I'm the financial manager, create money and use our building for those purposes and our resources.
Okay.
I think also where we have been talking about is education about the past. So like also not only book and black artists, but also show where the history of techno and house music comes from.
Okay, and one thing that one thing that pops into my mind is, why now? Why
So
now?
why now?
Yeah, undertake all these ventures that you think you'll be able to, do an event where you really put the light on the history of black music, whereas you have been playing black music for a while now. Why now, and how? What's a concrete thing that? Because I'm not hearing anything concrete right now. Would you like to answer?
Yeah, I think if about something concrete, I mean, when I look at my own position, from the start, I've been the booker, and I took that responsibility, and I had this sort of idea about it should be one person with a vision, and that's what you're sort of ought to be. And I see the downsides of that, and I think that's also something that we can and should change immediately to make the departments we have, so HR, communication and programming, the side that I'm in, to make it a group, make it shared, and have more people involved
Right.
in that, and make sure it's, I think the way we've set up the company, where these responsibilities were on individuals, I think that really failed.
Okay, and still, what would be a concrete step in, for example, that could come from HR, as in you say you want to, share with more people or have more people involved? What does it actually entail when we say have people involved? Are they getting a spot in the company? Will they have executive decisionship, or is it just having, involving people? Because I think it's quite important to clear it up what we mean with involve. What do you mean with that?
I think it should be people with permanent positions in the office, people who have decision-making positions, and I think it's up to us to share that responsibility. That's also what I want to say now, that I want to do that as a booker, step aside, make sure I can help other people and get into that position and work with with a group with shared
Yeah.
responsibilities and make sure these important decisions, but every decision, is that people of color are involved in the decision making. That's, I think, something we should commit ourselves to.
All right. Okay,
And I
that's
think,
good.
can I say something?
Yeah.
You also mentioned HR, and I think we need to really make our hiring policies, because now in the past we have been looking so into our own network, and when there's a job available, look on it on our website. And if you want to make a more diverse team, which we want, you have to
Yeah.
look further than only your own direct friends or network. or-
Absolutely. That was also part of the criticism that was received from the community, that the school is a place that kind of works with only people they know, which is again coming completely only from their own circle. And this is also one thing that makes it so problematic. However, one last question around this topic before I continue to accountability communications. I would like to ask you, Lon, because obviously you're HR, but as you can see yourself, you're a white woman. How can we make sure that when you are hiring, that you are hiring from a perspective not just to bring in people, black people to sort of say, and all about tokenism, but that you're actually looking at the people, because if only you carry the responsibility, I don't think the community would feel, taken seriously when it comes to
I
this.
understand. Well, I think first I would like to say I'm doing HR, but when I do the hiring process, we always do it together. So either if it's the cafe, the restaurant, or the club, it's not me all alone doing it. That doesn't mean that those are also still white people. So that doesn't answer your question, but in a way, I think that group of people who are hiring together should either be made bigger, like we can maybe be even there with 3 people, although that's maybe a little bit much, or like changed so that we relate a little bit, or that we just, that we make that team different, and that we make sure there's at least a person of color also deciding on that.
Yeah, because would you agree that it's not up to sort of say, had the white institution now to start hiring people of color or whatever ethnicity, because let alone the fact that it might be intimidating, the fact that they might not be heard, as we know in society, as it is a structural problem, not only occurring here but in multiple establishments as well. So you would say, when you talk about relation, you talk about the other white people in the office, or really bringing someone in, or is there already someone that can help you with this, so we don't have to wait for 6 more weeks before it actually happens?
Well,
and also maybe to let people know that if they want to come here, that what they could expect as well, and not come here and then have the surprise, whoa, I thought they were going to do this thing, but they ended up still having a bunch of white people in front of me, and I feel fooled.
Well, to answer your question, like the last weeks, what Luc also said, some people from the staff stood up and demanded a position. In that way, there was like a team formed. I would really want to say that happened spontaneously, because there were a couple of people, like managers, but also people from the bar, who stood up and were like, hey, we want to have a voice, and we want to have a say in this right now. And out of that, now 2 women of color, they really demanded their place in the office. That was
Do you think it's normal, the fact that they had to demand it?
no, definitely not.
And did you, because this has been happening since the 1st of June, and you already, you are aware of them, do you feel that they should have not even given the opportunity, but the space to take it up, if they felt like it? Because demanding, in my head, also sounds like, this is it. And I don't think that the way the school communicates, which also brings me to my next point, is that's the way the school communicates itself towards the community. So before I move on towards communication, would like to know if this is something that won't be happening anymore in the future, that people have to demand something, but they have a place to come here. And what's a concrete goal to achieve that?
We have been, we talked about this today as well, and we were talking that when we changed even more staff in the office, we need to have like a proper safer space policy or anti-racist policy. So we can, once we have a policy, we can have trainings, we can explain to everyone like this is our new policy, so we can also hold each other accountable.
All right.
Maybe can I add these two
Yeah, 1 minute
women
though,
are
because then I
extremely
know.
powerful. Sorry?
Yeah? No, very shortly,
so-
so I can continue.
Sorry?
No, you can go.
No, that they're so powerful that they stood up and said, okay, we want to do this. And,
Did they receive
Did-
pushback?
sorry?
Did they receive pushback?
Well,
You know, because you
pushback
say it's
maybe
powerful that they stood up, but
it's maybe if you see it in context that we are still in the coronavirus with a closed club. So then still we thought like, hey, like, is it possible? And like in the end, they said, no, we have to do this, and we need to have a voice, and we need to change. And then that also was the moment for us to realize, yes, of course. And
But I think that's called pushback in the end, because it slowed everything down. There were already people saying, hey, you have blind spots. Let us help you. And then that
Yeah.
took 2 weeks for us to see. So
To see, so.
I think that's a pushback.
that's called pushback indeed.
and in the end, they also, we need to work together on a safe space to be more inviting for people of
Yeah,
color
yeah.
to enter the office in the
Yeah.
future.
All right. Leading towards accountability communication, because I'm going to go quite quickly through this as well, because I want to make sure that everyone in the audience can also have a moment to talk and react on everything you've said. Obviously, you've been having criticism for the last 4 years, and what people would like to know is why now you're tackling the criticism. And for example, also one concrete example I would like to point out is that when a white DJ who has a huge platform says something in the comments, you directly call him, make sure that they, are aware of the actual context. But when the community is speaking towards you, they have to wait for a couple of weeks until they receive an email back or a comment. And the people are also quite unaware of when, for example, Luke is speaking as Luke, and when Luke is not speaking as Luke, but as a company. Could you give us some clarity about that?
Yeah. Shall I answer?
Yes, please.
Because it's, I think, a few different things. For me, one incident that happened is that I made a post on Instagram that I regretted, and I wrote an apology, and it wasn't clear if it was coming from me or it was coming from the school. And then later I realized that had been like confusing already for a long time. And basically this role of being a spokesperson for the school, it's only now that I realize it's quite weird. Like when I started, I was like, okay, that's the idea, and that's how it always is. But I think we need to change these things, because I think a place like this doesn't deserve like one spokesperson because we do it with a team. So I think that's something that's gonna change. It's something.
Would you then, sorry to interrupt you, would you then also say that it's not really smart to connect your online persona with the function you have within this company?
Yeah, I think that's what I've been doing for 4 years, and I think that's how it shows that it's structural and things we've been doing with the school too. And I think sort of what my voices and my ideas and the things that I thought were good, not only for the school but maybe for the scene in general, that got like really mixed up. And it's only now, the last few weeks, that we really properly communicate this with each other, and that people also come up to me and tell me like, hey, we really shouldn't do it like this. And I also realized that apart from the bookings, also in communication, I just had a lot of power to style this and give it a tone of voice that I thought was the
But
right
this is going
one.
to change, right?
And it wasn't. Yeah, but
Cool.
that should work. We should work with a team. But I think it were a few different questions. Also, with the comments,
Yeah.
there were a lot
Like,
of
why is the white artist, big artist, huge platform, we need to talk to them and them only, but the people who actually come into the
Yeah.
building have to wait.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
That's also actually only today that I realized that was wrong. I think there's like 300 comments, and with the people I knew, that I knew that wanted to talk with me at that point, I wanted to call them to keep like communication open, because I felt like we were losing communication with people. But now I also realize I wanted to do the same thing actually with media. When 3 for 12 sent the email, I was like, we should send them a statement to clear everything up. And then there were the people in the office that told me, why are you gonna give 3 for 12 a statement to maybe make yourself look better or make the school look better when the community is still waiting for an answer? I hadn't thought about that. I think that's exactly the same thing as with DJ you mentioned, where I'm like, okay, this is really important to address. This is the people that I'm connected to, also people in my wide network that I'm gonna speak out to, and less comfortable part, and also the quite overwhelming and emotional part, didn't go into, and stepping into the comment sections, and we started to answer them with a team of 6. We made sort of a structure to do it.
And were the people all capable of actually answering these comments?
No, because and that's also why we did it as a team. So
But as each individual person in this team, could you say that they were capable of really reacting on the people?
no, I really think not. Also myself, I wasn't. So that's why we sent, what's the right word for it? Proposals to each other, like, hey, this is what I want to respond. Then we discuss it internally, and it's like, hey, this is not the right way to talk. So I think this was a good example of how we, over the last week, collectively, basically every comment went to every hand. And I think that way, it's not the best way to do it, but I think with the team we have right now,
Yeah.
that was the best thing we could do.
Because, Lon, during the introduction, you also mentioned that it's difficult for people to come here and, say what they want to say. Why do you think it's difficult for them to come here?
Good question. I think, well, I think that's,
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
I also don't have the answer, because I think we always thought that we were so approachable and such a flat structure in the company, and then
Can I ask you, because I told you already I'm going to be very critical, what did you base that upon, that you are open, that you are, what specific thing led you to believe that, everyone can approach me?
because you're white, you have blind spots, and you don't see the pain and suffering people of color go through every day.
So it's either more a feeling and not an actual awareness of everyone around you.
Yeah.
All right.
yeah, I think in the beginning you think, oh, we're all the same, looking up to me, and after speaking a lot with
But
the employees, you find out people look up to you, and
But did they really look up to you?
well, look up to you. There is a distance between
So that it's actually
people from the office, and
Yeah.
especially the board, and the people
So maybe
who
the
work
looking
in
up is not
bar.
the right word to use. It's you cannot grasp the office. You cannot reach the office.
Yeah.
So you're unreachable. Okay.
That's what
Yeah.
we found out last week. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's we're here to hold each other accountable, as we said. Do you want to add something before
Yeah,
I go to the last
I
one?
mean, when people ask us, like, is there a hierarchy in your company, I think you also were one of the first said, no, not really. And I was like, no, not really. And then we also realized, like, okay, but we have a lot of power. And I think this hierarchical thing, it doesn't fit at all with the plan that we base the school on. We also realized that the plan that we base the school on is failing. That needs to be rewritten. But at least the way we started it, it wasn't meant to be like that. So I think also when we did this Instagram post, that when I look back on it, it's really hurtful and embarrassing, but we wanted to emphasize on democratizing the company, and from that really bad post, I still want to hold on to that, because that's really something that I believe in. That I think we can get rid of this hierarchy. It helps that management is leaving,
Okay. Yeah.
and we have a chance now to do it, I think.
Okay. Because I want to continue towards the Q&A. One last thing is I would like to ask all of you to formulate one specific ambition for improvement, aka affirmative action. When we've talked about HR, hiring people, the structure, the accountability in who has the most power within this company, the fact that you thought you were approachable, but the fact that you aren't. What's a specific goal we could put under the part vision in order also to come back to it later on after the people have spoken?
For me, it's
Yeah,
for me, it's democratizing. Like Luc also said before, in the past, a lot of decisions were made by a person. And
So democratizing for you. For you?
For me, it's sharing my position.
Also sharing position. So not necessarily stepping down, just to make that clear for everybody also listening online.
Sharing position, yes.
Sharing position, okay. For you?
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking.
Also sharing position, not necessarily stepping down. All right. I would like to continue with the 10-minute Q&A from everybody here. So I'm seeing a few notepads already. Is there anything you would like to react on what's been said by the school during this, I think, half an hour? Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit shorter.
I want to say, actually, I would like for you to, yeah, let's do it. Hi, for people, I think my voice is good enough.
For the online, for the podcast.
Hello. For me, I think a lot of people don't know me, and also I feel it's a good thing to have the conversation. I just have a quick. Do you know me, Luke?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I never heard back from you. And I never heard back from, like, what really went down actually here. And your name, sorry, is?
Jochem.
Lon?
Lon, yes.
Yeah, hi, sorry,
Hello.
Cedric. You said something about education. Well, let me start from the beginning with saying, you being a club in Amsterdam West, getting subsidy, you know, I mean, to also Jochem? No,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
Jochem?
Luc, this is Jochem.
I
yeah.
know, Luc, Jochem,
Okay,
Lon.
sorry. That's just
You're doing finances.
Yes.
So you sitting there and actually not knowing to find, you're not really yet there to find an angle, but you're talking about, you're just doing the finances part. You here at the school, Amsterdam West, you're getting money from Amsterdam West. Amsterdam West has a narrative of not being a white neighborhood. So in my eyes, you're actually taking money from the people in Amsterdam West. So in that sense, there is already a community within Amsterdam West, but these people don't really know how to get on those, let's say, aanvragen voor subsidies and so. But you do. And what I read it, by the way, just saying, because for some people, I'm a choreographer, I have my own platform, I create, blah, blah, blah. So I had the opportunity to present my work here. And being so passionate about education, I'm just sitting here and I'm annoyed. And I just hear a lot of, I'm just gonna be very honest, white tears. And saving the image of the school on social media. But you know why you claimed and proclaimed the name the school. I mean, like, we all know what the aim is in this environment, right? From the beginning, queer environment, safe space, let's go techno, let's go raving. I just say there's a lot of, like, you're talking about team, where are they? Where's your team? Where is Anna, the one that's programming all the artists? Where is she now? I really want her to be here. I want The people that are on social media writing the tea, I want those people to actually be here. I don't want to sit here and just listen to your thing because it's not just you guys, it's your team. And I think you taking no responsibility at all because I'm just hearing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And sorry, I'm really emotional because I am one of those people that didn't come for a year in school. What the fuck happened here in the school with me presenting my work here? Okay? So like all these black voices that follow me are asking me what went down in the school because y'all have a lot of shit to say, especially Anna, about me and my character and my work, but you didn't grasp the necessity of the work. So then I come to you because you're education, right? So like, let's not really try to aim to have a certain protocol. Let's really come on the job and do the job. And this is really not happening. And a lot is happening in front of the door while you're not standing in your own house. Like security, these people, where is security? Where is security now to hear actually what's happening? I want to have the conversation with people to sense that you need to sense how you can be accountable. It's not a concept, just that.
Thank you.
Point made. Thank you for that.
Could you react on what he said?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
that's a very important
First,
thing to
about
do.
the audience, we wanted to create space for people with criticism. Of course, there's a limited capacity. A lot of people from our staff wanted to be here, but I think for now the most important thing is that I have to take the accountability for the rest of our team.
Why?
And
You're deciding you're not really here.
Because-
I'm not to judge. I don't know you.
Yeah.
So let's detach of that, making that really personal.
Yeah.
But you're designing them.
Yeah.
I know how branding, how structure. I'm a choreographer. I deal with opera houses. I deal with all of that. But you have a team. Sorry, babes. You have a team. So like, I think it's unfair having this conversation with you, actually.
Would you agree with that?
I think
Well-
it's not reasonable.
I think it's a start of a communication, and it's a start of a bigger process. Nothing is solved today. I think there will be a lot more moments like this and more communication from our side. And we also have to prove ourselves. It's just not
For who,
hollow.
though, then?
Sorry?
My question. For who do you now want to prove yourself? I feel the battle that everyone is fighting now is to be a topic on online. We need to know what we post. We need to know what it is that your responsibility is. So you being West, I think, having a platform in West, you know, I mean, I heard about this whole, when I was living in New York, people texting me, comparing it with Berlin. I don't really think so. I think that's the aim for online. But Berlin has structure from inside. Berlin knows that bitches cannot post shit online, that you need to be very thoughtful, very well educated, again to education. So then I'm really like, okay, but what is it that you're doing in the building loan? What is it that you're doing? I know what the finances is doing. You're getting the coin. But then I think if you know where you get the coin, invest, and you're not investing in the community, but taking their money, that's a huge problem for me.
Yeah.
That's a major problem because those people are being discriminated at the door. I mean, let's really call it out. We wanted to have that conversation. I'm not here to really finger point, but it's really important to acknowledge, not only by online, but really to hear my emotion beside this. Because look, you know what it meant to book them in this building. Or not?
I know the piece. Yeah.
Okay, so then why didn't hear from you? I hear from you now in this meeting. I didn't hear from you after. You guys treated us like shit. While I built my ass really up to be booked by Palace de Tokyo, Sydney
it's a beautiful
Opera
piece.
House,
Yeah.
and all that shit. So me stepping down from my high horse to give back to the community, this performance was so. I mean, we even talked about what are we going to do to feed the community to bring us here. Education, gay life, queer life. All these people being here, you know, being acceptance, walking, passing, doing, snoring, everything is fine though. But it's always a hustle when we just want to be. And then I think community and space, figure out the space that you want to be and proclaim that you are.
All right.
Okay?
Is there anyone else who would like to add something to it?
I would like to add something. This is really for Yoakum. I think like 2 years after you guys opened, I was actually the friend that was hitting him up, telling him about the club because I was living here. Basically, I was coming to the school for a couple of months. I planned to have my birthday here. I had a guest list with all my friends on the list. And your security one day decides to not let me in, but also not let my friend in on my birthday. So I took it upon myself to take the high horse, leave, and I write the school and deal with it from the inside. And from you said you would look into it and then replied, "You're not welcome here." Okay, actually, I looked into it. It seems to be like people don't like you and you're not welcome here. I have the receipts. So I think you stepping down is a really good thing now because I don't think that the panel really cares. You know what I mean? And we do need like new people in the space because we do have voices. We are artists. We're not people that are coming to the club to just get fucked up. We actually add something to the space. So I hope you guys take that into account, like moving forward, because you said to me that I wasn't welcome here anymore. I didn't come here for 2.5 years. You know what I mean? But now I'm here to let you know this so that we can get growth, okay?
Yeah. One thing I think it is important to address what's being said right now is what's a concrete thing that, or a specific thing that can follow up, come from this. You hear the pain, you hear the frustration, you hear the fact that they feel that it's still a lot of sending. I'm not. No, not necessarily. Not personal frustration is not what I'm talking about. Like a general frustration, and this I'm included in that as well. But I'm not a frustrated person, obviously. But what's a concrete thing that can come from this? Because sending someone an email saying that they're not welcome whilst pretending that everybody is welcome is very problematic.
Yeah.
I will agree with that. But how can we make sure that this does not happen in the future anymore?
Yeah.
What's a concrete thing?
Can I
Specific thing.
speak to you after the meeting to see about it? Yeah. Thank you.
And do you think this has happened multiple times? That this is not the only incident, to sort of say, call it the way it's being called?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
I would say I don't think so, but
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I really didn't want to be the one to put you on the spot, but I see some people that we all really love leave this room very upset because we don't feel like you are being open enough and honest enough, and that you're not giving people the answers that we want. I'm Ted. I just became one of the club managers for the people at home, and I'm voicing all the people that are sitting in the office right now or left this room upset. So just really wanted to make sure that you know that there's people there, even that you love and are inside the office right now, that don't take enough with these answers.
How do you feel about that?
I didn't hear anything. So
There are people who are employees who've just left the meeting or podcast, however you want to call it, because they're upset. Upset about the fact that they don't feel that they're getting what should have been done, aka could you say that you've done enough homework, and could you say that what's being formulated, look, how is it possible that people are being hurt right now as we speak, and that Ted just spoke up about it to let you know that people went to the office because they couldn't take this any longer?
in the end, that's also part of the learning process, and we need to find out.
Come on, man, it makes us feel really shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's the part of taking responsibility. If
Yeah.
I audition for a job as a valid answer, I know what I'm putting myself
Mm-hmm.
But that's being comfortable, though. He's being comfortable. And that's I mean, you see it. You see it. It's a, how do you say it now? It's a fashion, right? Black Lives Matters. Everyone has time to post about black issues now because they feel they're being exposed. Let's expose and let's grow. I'm super excited. Call me, Lon. Call me. Because I can tell you didn't do your homework. Because I do a lot of education. People don't know, but I read a lot of things from Raad van Cultuur, subsidies. So all this like writing from the school, I see what you write. Preach it though. Preach it. I want to see that. Want ik heb de aanvragen gezien, jongens. Kom op nou.
All right.
We all know. Daarom lopen ze weg. En ik ook.
You may give it to Rico. Thank you for being here. Oui. So I'm just going to give Cedric the space to walk away. All right.
Yes, thank you. Something I would also like to address, we're talking about the club space a lot, but what also really hurts for me a lot is to see like all the creative spaces that are here in this beautiful building. We were talking about the office being white, but also a lot of these spaces here are white. And I wonder how it feels to walk out of this door every day and see the amount of people who come from this neighborhood outside having their own, this really, really hurts me, like having their own gathering because they don't have space. And we all know they want space. So I wonder how it feels to not give them space and why haven't they got any space here?
Can I elaborate on that?
Yes, please.
I think I feel you, and that's really shit. Like there.
If you felt
Yeah.
you would have done something. But
That's true. Yeah. Okay. To just come back also on the networking with the HR, where it went wrong, often that we chose people from our own network. I
But
think
that's something we already know that
Yeah.
that has been happening. So move forward, because again he says, you know, you just see it, and still nothing is changing. And the fact that it's because of you know, vriendjespolitiek, as we say in the Netherlands, we are already aware of that, but we want to be made aware of all the other things that we as the community are capable of thinking about, but you guys somehow aren't. Do you feel you could give an answer on that? On also what Shamira stated? Why is it, why? The why is so important? And again, we said it's going to be very uncomfortable.
I think it goes wrong with writing a plan for the school that has these sentences like, hey, we care about the neighborhood, hey, we're going to be inclusive, but there's no plan attached to it. There hasn't been any communication up front with the neighborhood. So I think already writing in your plan about we're going to be there for the neighborhood before there's been any dialogue with people from the neighborhood, then you talk about people instead of talking with people. And that's why I think we should really, like the groundwork that the school is built on, it's wrong. And that's why we should rewrite that. And now if we still want to include that we want to offer space to the neighborhood, we want to be there for the neighborhood, we should talk with people first, hire people first that can do it if we feel we can't do it ourselves. And otherwise, don't write it in the plan. And I know that's like, there will be a really shitty outcome, but I think it's more honest than to have a plan that says, we're going to be a techno club, and this is this, and we have a few
Would you also argue
spaces.
that you shouldn't even be making a plan if you aren't capable of taking all these things that are quite normal for the community into account? Are you, like, the
I
very
don't think
critical
we-
question? Because I also don't, speaking from what I've seen in the criticism as well, that it's not necessarily about just giving everything away, and because you also mentioned sharing. But still, the fact when you talk about a plan, what I am not hearing is a vision as well. Because a plan is something, yeah, it's a procedure, but the vision is completely lacking in this. So I think this is also going to be the last point because it's a nice introduction in towards the second part, which is community.
I have one more thing to add.
Yeah. No, we're not.
Something else I also want to state is that the club, the school, has always been also a space for art, a lot of artworks in different spaces. And I've asked in the past, and I still wonder why. I always had the feeling that there was only space for artists with higher education. Why don't we see more autodidact artists or artists from different layers of society? I feel there's always some sort of, and maybe not even necessarily white, but there's always some sort of
Classification?
classification where some people can, which some people can reach very clearly, and some people will never be able to reach. I wonder if there's a plan to change that. I wonder why it hasn't happened before. Also, like my last question, also wonder why didn't it happen before? Why, like you also said, Suhaila, why do we see these things and why don't you see these things? Is it out of comfort? Is it out of the fact that other people are giving pats on the shoulders and you then have the idea that you're doing good? Can you please give me some sort of answer for this?
And try to make it as specific as you can, because we don't want to necessarily hear about feelings, because we all have feelings as human beings. But make it specific so you can actually take something away from this, a feeling that you've thought about this or maybe haven't thought about this, but at least are honest about it.
I've never really been involved a lot in the art programming, but I think searching in our own network is maybe an answer to it.
But you are responsible of signing off. So are you responsible of signing off on this art?
No, not really.
Not at all as well.
Can I say something
Yeah.
about it? I think, again, in the first plan of the school, that was also already here partly, it was here from the start, is that we wanted to be also a museum, and it really dips into the problematic dynamics that museums already have, and I think that was, in a way, the worst things to do, because you go into this dynamic where it is only about established art, and I think we had sort of the ambition to engage with that and deal with that. And I think right now, if we're going to do art exhibitions, again, we should work with external curators that understand,
That are capable and
that are
understand.
capable of doing this, also because it needs proper investment of time and money. And we wanted to be a museum, but there was not the actual care, the actual investment to do it. So again, I think it's either not do it or do it properly. Otherwise, it hurts.
Okay. So just to conclude, I hear that it's a lot of I have a dream, but I don't know what I actually dreamt, but I'm still trying to, from the top of my mind, follow the dream that I have, but I cannot necessarily figure out everything of the dream, but still I'm just going to go forward and push the dream. Could you add something to it, or do you feel, kind of sums it up?
Yeah, or it lacks the critical thinking behind it. I mean, if you have a dream and you think like, oh, we want a museum, but then think of what does that actually mean for us? What does that actually mean for the place where you have your building? What does it actually mean for the neighborhood? Like, these are also questions you need to answer, and they haven't been answered.
And would it also be a fair thing to say that you shouldn't start with saying, what does this mean for us? Because I'm going to let you answer it as well, because one of the things I would also like to talk about is when we talk about community, a short topic, introduction, what is meant with that. The people who come to the school, the people who know the school, from overseas, the music artists, the artists, the employees, and also the employees that aren't working, the older employees that aren't working here anymore necessarily, the surrounding environments, ateliers, ROC, which is a vocational education school, which people tend to look at people in vocational education as they are the workers instead of the foundation of society as well. And which initiatives should be part of the school? Who are we missing? When you start by saying we have a dream and then start the sentence with us, who's this us we're talking about? Are we talking about from the sole vision of the school as an institute and the position they have, or are we talking about us as people working in this company? I think that really needs to be clarified before I move on.
I think now you say it's really centered around us. That's not right, maybe the way where you should start. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, brings me to my next question. What is the position of the school as an institute within the community? Because I can imagine that, you know, as we just talked about the dream and et cetera, what is this dream? How does this dream exist within the community? Or do you feel like can't really answer that because everything we've done up until now always started with us, as in our perspective?
Maybe because we were hoping that it was a home for a lot of people where they can feel safe and be themselves and dance and eat and drink. And
I think also here lacks the critical thinking again, because then, like, for who are you going to be there, and can we decide for another person if it's going to be a beautiful space and what that means for them? So in the end, can we decide our position within the community, or does the community decide that?
That's a question you may answer.
Yeah.
That's not a question for me necessarily. Because I think if you start asking these kind of questions, we might not even be here today. But again, still, how did you want to profile yourself within the community? And what was the actual reasoning behind this, for doing it in this way? Because then I'm going to continue towards the second question as well, and give people the space again to talk, to react on this.
Can I answer? I think the way of like presenting ourselves in a way, I think we wanted to do something very minimalist, so to like have a basement, only music, and not give too much content, give too much information, which was really focused on the image of the school and image we wanted to present, and not as two-way communication with the community. And I think now the communication, the way we're changing it now, I think it's one step, but I think that's the way it should be, as a way of conversation with people online, a way of conversation with people in real life. And I think in the beginning I thought the conversations you have, you'll just have them on the dance floor and you'll bump into the people, but I think that stays in your own network.
Do you think clubs should exist based on aesthetics? Think that people should be thinking from the perspective of aesthetics?
I think our
What goes wrong when we do that? Thinking solely from aesthetics?
I think then you forget the ethical part about it. I think then if you're talking solely about the design of it, it's a way of presenting yourself and having a stylized image that people can't touch. It's unreachable. It's a brand. So I think in a way that's also something that we are deconstructing already, and that.
But if you could use one word, what is lacking from this? Working from an aesthetics, what is lacking when we work from an aesthetic? You can use one word for this. As in, there are multiple words, but still you can only use one word in when we talk about what is lacking, why you cannot ever work from an aesthetic viewpoint.
Communication.
Thank you. Thank you. And she says humanity. What's another word that's lacking in here? What do you have for each other next to knowing that we're human?
Empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Because it also leads to, or could you say that it also leads to people at some point being gaslighted because we're thinking from this aesthetics and not thinking of looking at who do I have in front of me? Would you agree with that?
I think it's true. I think it's true.
All right. The second thing I would like to talk about, because we're also kind of running out of time, is the position of the community within the school as a company. And what I mean with this is, to which extent does the community has a say in the things that happen here? Well, you already mentioned functioning from an aesthetics. Let's put that aside. Did people still, in the past had any sort of say because they're part of the community? Did people have any say within, about how they were seen as a community within this company?
I mean, when it comes to the bookings, I met up with people, talked about it, and tried to answer questions online, always also in different Facebook groups, and also asked people for input. Then also I realized.
But is this, again, to clarify, does this come from Luc or does this come from the school?
This came from Luc.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not the school.
No.
Okay.
No, this is always us personal, but yeah.
Okay, so as in company-wise.
I think, of course, I'm doing HR, so I'm mostly internally, but I think that's also our community. And we, of course, have official meetings with staff every year or every half a year. And then we always ask for input, or if they want to have more like a say in that. But I want to put on that is that we also, or me and also we as an office team, got a lot of criticism that they didn't feel heard. So
Why do you think they felt that way? Because I can imagine that when someone says, I didn't feel heard, that again, it's traumatic experience.
Yeah.
So why do you think they said that?
Because I think in the end, we ask a lot of people for their opinions, but then in the end, there's most of the time one or two or maybe three people who make the decisions, and then
And then you mean
like, oh, maybe it's a nice idea, but we're going to do this.
And then you mean people from the school who make the final decision, or do you mean as in the input that has been given is really taken into account, and then together with them a decision is made? As in, this might also include 3 of my friends that I know, who reacted, and the rest is, I don't know, I don't have time for that, so we're just going to go, do this with them. Is that the case, or what's the case?
It's about people from the school.
It's people from the school. All right. How can you? What's a specific process you can go into to make sure that, again, this doesn't happen? That we're not functioning from an aesthetic. That when we ask people for input, that we're not just asking people to waste their time because we're not going to listen to it anyway.
Internally, we're starting to make a ondernemingsraad. Was it
A workers'
union.
union.
workers' union?
Workers' union. To also make sure that the people who come towards are protected.
Get an actual voice that needs to be listened to.
Yeah, and they have power. Then
Yeah.
you have power. I think that's really important. If like a majority of the staff says, hey, we lose trust in Luc or in Jochem, and I think that power should really be recognized. And I think talking about the community, I hope we can have more meetings, not exactly like this, but meetings like this where we, in the meeting, also formulate things that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to, so it's not people giving us input and us cherry picking, but where it's like, okay, this has been the input from the group, we write it down, and this is the thing we've decided.
Because before I go again to the Q&A, so that everyone in the audience may speak if they want to, is you just said that more people need to have power, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do we ensure leadership in this?
Sorry?
Because I can imagine that giving people more power kind of may be quite chaotic at some point. Even so chaotic that people don't feel safe anymore. So where does the leadership entail, or what does the leadership entail? That, as in, we give people more power, but we also have someone to lead the people and mediate and facilitate. Because again, as I said, I can imagine giving people power, but I don't think it's all about giving people power. It's also about leadership. How are you going to do that? Make sure that there is a leadership. Is that by forming, you may answer?
Yeah, and that we just cannot answer yes. It's part of.
I do think
The
we can give a lot of.
restructure.
I think we can give a lot of answers. That there should be a new directorial board where there's now space in it. We should talk about that. Staff should have a say in it. We are gonna have a say in it, and I think, but Lon and me already said we wanna step aside and share that responsibility with people. And I think that there should be a committee that, and I think that's where Lon is gonna be involved. That critically looks at what's happening in the office and in the board, and I think these structures, we can implement them, and there's the space now to do it. Yeah.
So just to, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, last few weeks we have been drowning a bit because there was no real leadership. Like, there were a lot of voices, but what you say, it was quite chaotic, and I think if we have a new directorial board, it should also be really clear that they also, where we have been struggling with now, they invest time and money in the fact that we're going to do something about this.
So it's not going to be solely on the office, put on the office, but we are correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing from this is an action point, that there is going to be an directorial committee to oversee things, to make sure that giving people power does not mean, hey, everybody just do what you want, we're going to try, as best as we can, but actually having a group of people maintaining leadership for different kinds of people. Is that correct? So that's something that we're going to look forward into.
I think that's what we should do. Yeah.
All right, good. Because now I'm going to give the word to the audience again. I would like to ask if people are interested in reacting or not. If not, please let me know as well. So I'm just going to continue, because again, in the end, all the criticism will be assembled and will be tackled later.
Yeah, they're in the back.
Yes. One thing, young man, you're on your phone. Would you like to put that away or maybe leave? Because it's a bit disrespectful. Yes, yes.
I'm just curious, maybe it's not really on the topic that we just talked about, but I would like to hear from you guys if you understand why people are walking away still. Do you understand? I really want to hear from you guys.
There's apparently a lot of people who get offended by whether it's our answers or.
What does that mean to you?
Well, yeah, to me, I'm pretty confused, and it's shit.
And for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it feels really uncomfortable, I have to say.
Just
yes.
uncomfortable?
No.
Just confusing?
Well, the thing is that I also want to know why. And
No, I think people, if people have the right to leave, they don't have to. They don't have to tell us anything. I think it just really hurts, and it also, I think, shows that we've been talking a lot with each other. We've been talking a lot with staff, and this is what we had to tell, and that we.
Would you say this is up and foremost confronting?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it also really shows that we haven't been listening well, and that's really confronting, yes.
And sorry, the reason why I ask is, if you don't know, or think about it coming days, if you don't know, I'm not sure if you're going to be the ones that should make the change.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's a good point, and I think that's what I've been thinking about a lot personally. That already I felt like being what I was like the head booker or so. I shouldn't be the person doing that now. And I right now there was like a lot of work in the last few weeks and a lot of pressure on the team. It was a really new team, and I felt like I had to be here and I wanted to contribute and help if I still felt their trust. And this is something that I ask my colleagues, hey, do you still feel like I contribute and that I help and that I can share my expertise? And if they don't feel like that, then I should definitely quit. And I think right now, if our own colleagues leave, I think that's a pretty clear sign. And yeah, for me, I think we need to talk about it first, but I should either do something different and help them, and if they don't feel like I should, I would be okay with stepping down.
I'm not saying you should quit.
Sorry? I didn't
I'm not
hear you.
saying at all that you should quit. I'm just hoping that inside yourself, coming days today, you will understand it more, because I think it brings a lot of emotion today, because I think a lot of things you said, or maybe the feeling you brought up, is kind of the same that we've been hearing the last couple of weeks. And I think that's why emotions are going to come so high, because all the people that are sitting here are, in the end, rooting for you. Like, we want to make this place better. So I just hope that will come to you, so you actually will be able to make the change. Because I think if you won't understand, you won't be able to make the change. There should be new people there. And that's everything.
Is there anyone else who would like to react?
Hi, everyone. Kind of along the same lines as the last question, I was wondering about a next step. And I know I'm maybe a bit ahead of schedule looking at what's coming up, but so one of the big things that I've read online as well, and I've heard from other people, is that, you're a company, obviously. You're not just, a safer space or whatever. And PR is obviously a problem, right? Like something went very wrong in communications, and then after people voice criticism, more communication errors in that sense. So not just as a group of people, but also, a company, and a company that I like, right? How do you plan to practically change your communication to the outside world? Because this is a step, at least, an experiment. We'll see whether it's successful or not, obviously. But how can you change your voice? What are your steps to show the community and to show all of us eventually that you will actually be making these steps? What are you going to do next?
Well, I think
Let's make it a short-term goal.
listening to the community is a start. Like what we did in the past is communicate. We drop something. It's a one-way communication, and I think the last couple of weeks showed that not reacting was the worst thing that we could do.
Guys, I think most people want to smoke a cigarette or take a quick leak. So we're going to have a 5-minute recess, 5 to 10 minutes recess, which actually means that we're going to end a little bit later. But I do want to give people now the space, since emotions are also bubbling, to take 10 minutes, and then we all come back and finish this. Yeah? All right, thank you. See you in a bit. Yeah. Razia? All right. Is this on again? No, no. All right. As you can feel, there's a lot of tension right now. So I also do not really feel the need anymore to continue talking about a lot of points, which obviously people still feel that they aren't being addressed adequately, appropriately. So I would like to continue towards the criticism that has been put forward by the commenting audience online. And I'm going to give the, can I have the mic, please? Yes. I'm going to give the word to my two beautiful online moderators, and they will be telling you what the criticism is that they've been receiving online. And from there on, we're going to continue with the last part. But first things first, let's start here. Yeah.
So just as a first note, as the editorial committee, we've been following the discussion that is happening online, which is our exact role, and collecting the points that are being made, and then to bring them forward. First and foremost, we would like to thank everyone that has shared their concerns. Your voices are seen and they are heard. With that said, we unfortunately cannot answer all of the questions because of the limited time frame, but we are trying to involve as many points the public has made and to amplify them in the questions that we will be putting forward, just as an intro.
Yeah, thank you.
First, I would like to, this one's important for me because it's for my sister. She pointed out like, so me and 4 other women of color, which one? Sucha, Malika Michelbrink, Razia and Liza, were here a few weeks ago to talk with the school about what happened. It was a long conversation. And Razia would like to know, why didn't you reach out to us after that? Because I remember you saying like, okay, let's just like after this, let's just talk about how it went down today, and have like a, how do you say it, like a rundown of what happened,
Just
and
a
to see,
quick follow-up.
yeah, follow up and to see how it's gonna go from here. And we didn't hear anything from you again about that. Why is that?
Why didn't we get the acknowledgement we actually deserve?
Yeah, or just a follow up, like
Oh,
yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
if you follow up, you acknowledge, which hasn't been happening.
Yeah, follow-up is a fair point. Yeah, I think, again, that it was so messy and there were so many conversations and emotions, and I think it just got lost on the way. But also,
sorry,
Can
because
I
I
say
don't. I
something?
want to make sure that it stays short and precise.
Yeah.
Because when you say gets lost, that's triggering for a lot of people, because they feel, again, why? How is this possible that voices get lost?
but can
I
I
think-
also, I was emailing with you about if you wanted to sit down.
You said you want to sit down for a cup of tea and just talk. It wasn't like, hey, you came here with two other women, with 4 other women, and I said to you we should like have a follow up. Let's have a follow up. It was sweet, but it was just like, hey, if you would like to have a cup of tea to talk about things, we can do that. That's not a follow up.
Yeah, true, sorry.
What I've been seeing with myself a lot, sorry to censor myself, but often it's also being scared. So, for instance,
But sorry, just
Yeah.
sorry, because how do you think people feel coming here, putting themselves in positions? Do you think that they don't have any emotions?
My heart is beating as we speak. Like, this is very triggering for me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Because it's
Yeah.
confronting, because in the end we all have emotions. But how does it happen that your emotions, in this case, are put first? Is that because there's no one holding you accountable, and then you, as in, I mean also the company, the structure, the organization? Does the organization decide that our emotions are up and foremost important right now, not the emotions of the people we've told that we're going to give a follow-up? That could be a yes or no answer.
Yeah, I think we put our own emotions first in this, and I'm really sorry about that. I think it's the...
What's a step you could take to not do that again in the future? Because if people still after this decide to root for you, this answer might do it or not.
No, I think that we should have a proper structure from the beginning, like, hey, this is the meeting we had, and plan a follow-up, stay in contact, and that's what we definitely lacked.
No, but I think we're busy saving ourselves, and we go home thinking, okay, okay, next day, how can I solve what's going on, instead of recognizing the help that other people gave. I think we take that help also for granted by not recognizing it, and I think it's
All right.
it's very fucked up. Yeah.
I think there's a question over there, and then we're going to continue with the rest of the online commenting.
I just wanted to comment quickly on that, because it feels like you're still holding yourself accountable, but you're not. So how are you going to make sure that if you have a meeting with 4 women and you say you're going to follow up, that is actually done? Because you're going to lose faith of everybody, that every word that's coming out of your mouth right now, that is, it's like thin air. So how are you going to make sure that the people, and even everybody in this room, everybody online, that they're actually being listened to, and that you're not only listening to them and seeing them and recognizing them, but that it's going to be met with actions? How are you going to make sure of that? Because it's not happening right now, as she said.
Is there anything else you would like to add from the online commenting part?
Yes.
All right. And do you feel like you could give an answer, or do you think we want to wait until criticism is added and then formulate an answer? Yeah?
Yeah, the last one.
All right.
Let me just add to that Marika Michelbrink, she was also one of the women of color who was here. She also reacted online, and she was messaging me why she couldn't be here today. She was literally trembling while listening to you guys talk. She said, like, apart from booking more black and brown people, hiring more black and brown people, how will I ever feel welcome and safe again in the school? I couldn't go tonight because it's too painful. What are you going to do to make sure black and brown visitors don't get so disappointed over and over again?
We want to work on a safer space policy.
And when you say we, are you talking about the school as a company, or are you talking about you and some other people specifically? Just clear that up.
I'm talking about 2 women of color we gave, or who demanded a spot in the office, who are now under contract to work on a new plan.
Mm-hmm.
They are in charge of that plan, but they're going to do it together with all of us, so we can all have or show our expertise on that, so we can learn from each other. And we're going to work on a plan, and we want to finish that plan by half of September, And the idea is not to only work on the club, but also on the art, also on the cafe, also on the restaurant. Not only work on the offline, so not only on this space, but also on the online space.
And how are these women being facilitated to really get everything they need to make sure that it's not them cleaning it up, as some people might argue that it is, but that they are getting everything they need to really make this work as well? Could you say that they are getting that, or could you say that, you know, they're maybe left to do this thing by themselves and you're not really participating into it? Are they being facilitated correctly with everything they need?
They've got decision-making powers.
They've got decision-making powers. And is that the only thing you can facilitate? So is that the only thing you could give to them?
No, I think it also needs our own contribution. It shouldn't be them doing the work. It should be us acknowledging it. It should also be us writing plans.
What could be a simple goal? What is a concrete, a specific thing when you say contribution? What do you mean by that? Is it just your time? Just your expertise? Or is it your network?
I think that's all of that what you said, but also our resources, also.
Are they being offered the resources now to them? Or is it something that's still in the making and it's a plan that will happen, also signaling that it's something that's in the future, not something that needs to be happening right now? In which time frame should I look at this? As in, it's going to be in the future, or we're in the now working towards the future? Because that's two different things.
It's in the now working towards the future, and the deadline for it is half of September.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add from the online community?
We have two things to close off. One is quite a bit a long one, but it's very important. It's from an open letter from Meshad. We used to do the door here, and I'm just gonna read two paragraphs from what he said real quick. It's I believe this incident took place in February 2016 when a security guard, after forcefully searching a queer person and finding substances, offered this person to engage in a sexual act in exchange for not being reported to the police. This incident has been personally reported by me to your club manager, a close friend to the owners. Not only did he not question the guard, instead he questioned my sanity, gaslighting me. I believe this is a term that the club has been not educated about. This incident happened 3 more times to 3 different queer persons, and each time I tried to report, I was silenced. I faced gaslighting. I started questioning my own sanity until it finally happened to myself. Still, the manager refused to investigate and question 2 security guards. I have personally called on owners and office in order to convince them to talk to the guests who have experienced it. And I shared my own experience in order to force the club to cut its ties with this security guard. Okay, and then this is something that the committee formulated, and this is a question for you guys. There's a regarding to what I just read, there's a very important point being made here and in the comments about the presence/absence of the security team in this conversation. Have you had contact recently at all with your security team about the issues that we are attempting to tackle? If yes, what were the points and decisions made? If not, are you planning on putting steps into action with your security team to make sure that we won't be perpetuating the same things over and over again?
Can you paraphrase, because I didn't hear.
Question. Okay,
no,
but
no, I just
yeah,
didn't hear
but
it
basically, it's an open letter. We are going to send it to you as well. But Mershad is saying that there were a few incidents with the security and queer persons. I also think it's queer persons of color, and he brought this up to the manager and to you guys, to the office. And he was met with gaslighting, and people didn't believe him, and he brought this up like 3 or 4 or 5 times, and nothing was done with this. And we face this question because we've seen this in the comments more often, is that like, how are you going to handle the security? Because a lot of people have been complaining about the security. What decisions, for a long time, like what decisions have you made, are you going to make regarding the security?
And on top of that, should be made. Should be made.
Yeah. I think to answer the first question, have we been in contact with the security? No, we haven't. Second one is, do we want to make changes? Yes, we definitely want that. I think we should demand of them working to certain standards, to give them trainings, also to offer our money, but also in a way of working together, that they also see our values, and that we want them to get these trainings.
But don't you think that security gets training regardless of whatever club they work at? Because I've worked for multiple clubs, as you know.
Yeah.
And I've worked with black security guards, to sort of say. And every single time I went home happy, regardless of what happened. And for me, this signals that they are aware of whom they're working with, what the title is that I'm carrying, how I am responsible as a door host there to do my work, and how they can help me in making it a safer space for me to also actually do my work. And as you know, as most of you know, I've been a door host here as well. There were many times that I haven't felt this. I shared a story with you as well. And basically, how I'm going to speak from a personal point of view right now, is that it's not even about giving trainings anymore. This is so problematic that there isn't a training to solve this, because it might even be argued that it's not about the work that they do, but the power they feel they have.
And it's very ashamed to hear all this, and I have to say that more and more complaints came up the last weeks, and I'm also not sure if training is the right thing to do, but we have to be very, very critical.
We'll bring you a microphone so that we can also let everyone hear. Sorry to interrupt you, so that everyone can hear. Yeah.
Okay. And do you mind if I have you as last? So, because people are drained. I'm also drained. It's time to, one more thing, that's one, and then 2, final thing, wrap it up. And
I think it all goes back to the front of house. Like, a lot of issues start like when you walk into the school. So you guys not having direct contact with your security, especially Joachim, the situation that I brought up earlier, like, I hope that you went to the security and talked to them about it, but from your response, it looks like you didn't. Like, you just dusted it off as another situation. So I think moving forward, you definitely should try to have a different type of organization from the beginning of walking into the school, because that's where a lot of discrimination starts. You know, for people to be solicited for sex while being detained is crazy. That's a crazy look on the school. So I hope you guys take that as a serious thing to change.
Definitely. Thanks.
is it on? Can you hear me? I don't hear her. Can you give her the other one, please? Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. Are we keeping the same, and I'm talking about we since I work here, are we keeping the same security company?
After hearing all of this?
After, not only all of this. I'm in every club meeting, and we can say these are all incidents, but particular people within the security team are structurally making these incidents or so-called incidents happen. Are we keeping the same security company?
Yeah, that's hard to say now, but we need to. Sorry?
But it's kind of a yes or no question, Jochem.
Yeah, but
Is it a yes? Are we when we open up again, are we keeping the same security company?
I don't know if they are willing to. Sorry. Yeah, because it's a very big company where also.
Let me put it this way: from your heart.
Yeah. From the
You
heart,
feel-
it would be definitely no, but I also
But then
believe
make
in
it a
people-
no.
Sorry?
Make it a no. You are the one in charge. Like, you can say yes or no. Why are we keeping a company? I know that there is many issues to take from that, and I know that there is many things to take in consideration, but please understand that if you feel no, I feel no, and the people in this room feel no, why should it be a yes? Like, really tell me. Because I don't know. Like, let's change it. Let's make a change here.
Hear,
You
hear.
can make this change.
Well, the democracy is in that we need to talk about this all together and then collectively make the decision if it's a
But-
no. But
But
I
I
don't-
think,
Talking about
yeah,
it.
I think we now collectively made the
Yeah.
decision to not work with them anymore.
Okay.
We're going to move to the last online comment. So if I can have the mic again, please. We're almost there. Almost.
So one of the most pressing issues that is being addressed online is the lack of a concrete plan and of a concrete vision, which is also coming through the answers today, as people have also communicated in the Q&As. And people have been justly dissatisfied with this particular fact. So when and where can we expect a comprehensive and non-vague plan of action?
And let me add to that because we're like now 6 weeks further, and the only thing you came up was a podcast.
Was a podcast? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
In 6 weeks, you can come. I would feel like you can come up with anything more than just a podcast.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Is there a concrete answer or a specific answer you could give on this?
I think with regards to timeframes, I think on a really short term that we should now start setting up this union. I think we just decided on the security company. I was feeling super uncomfortable with it myself, and I'm happy Laura expressed it. I think it should be integrated in the school, and it should be a decision of us and the community. I think that's something we've decided. I think that we already this week should talk more about who's going to be in decision-making positions from now on, already from next week. And if people now feel like, also in this conversation, express like, I don't know what to say about this, then maybe they or we shouldn't. And I just also really want to hear from the people in the office who are really upset how they feel this, and we should listen to them. And then I think in 2 months that there should be a plan that involves all of this.
Because I just want to add one more thing, and then I don't know who was speaking, but the mic is going to come to you. I want to add one more thing because you just said that you are happy that Laura spoke up because you were feeling uncomfortable, but something that really needs to change here is that you don't have to wait on Laura to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for everybody,
Yeah.
including myself. Because what happens when we do that? What happens when we start waiting?
When we start?
When we start waiting
Yeah.
until someone else speaks up, and then, you know, I'm just gonna go with her vision because I was feeling it, but I was afraid to say it. How come? How come you still feel afraid to say this? Is it because it's so uncomfortable? Or is it because it's so confronting? Or is it, what's missing here?
I think in this case is that it's been brought up so much over the past few years, and
But I mean, the
not
part
being
as
listened
in really Laura speaking up and you saying directly after it, I'm happy she spoke up because I was feeling uncomfortable. But now that she brought it forward, yeah, we just made a collective decision. But I actually now feel that if Laura maybe wouldn't have spoken up, that this wouldn't be a collective decision. And that's something that is also triggering me. Because then we cannot use words as democratic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, this is for me to you. I don't want to make it about myself, so I want to give the mic all the way to the back.
Yeah, hi, I'm one of the people that walked out halfway, and I've been listening to this conversation from the office with the rest of my colleagues, and we just wanted to add to the whole discourse about security that I feel really let down by the fact that this wasn't brought up, that we have been discussing starting our own security team because of how fucking shitty these people have been to our visitors and even to us. Like, I've been working for this company for 4 years and I haven't felt safe working with them. So imagine, you know, seeing it from inside, knowing that I don't feel safe with a company that I'm working with because Het Collectief, let's fucking call them because that's their name. Het Collectief is the company that we hire to make us feel safe. They don't make us, the school, feel safe. So how the hell are they gonna make our visitors feel safe? And I'm so upset about the fact that none of you, and I love all three of you, but none of you have even mentioned that we have discussed this, that we have talked for weeks about how we need to start our own security company, how this is, that we can't give them the safety or, you know, the power to make us feel safe. And like, I'm just sitting there and thinking like, when is this gonna be brought up?
And do you also think it's responsible? Do you also think it's responsible to have a team knowing, and then referring to security, knowing what has happened in the past, knowing that people obviously do not feel comfortable enough, as you already stated in the beginning, to come to you or find it difficult to say these things because they're questioned if they're sane, which is something that's, I cannot even say something about that. But where in your minds as a company, as a person or whatsoever, did you feel like it's still responsible to continue working with them?
I think it's not the security who needs to be protected. They are hired to protect us.
Yeah.
We need to feel safe because of them. So that's lacking.
They acknowledge
that
now, right?
The problem
solved, right?
Yeah.
That's no other problem.
Let's continue. I'm completely there with you. So also just to wrap it up, closing a bit later than expected, yeah. Can I get the mic for Jeanette?
I just want to add, and this doesn't need to be discussed, but I just want to add, I found it very, yeah, what's the word? Funny, interesting, that Ernst left the school and due to personal reasons. I found that is such a good example of white privilege, that he just has the privilege to walk away from this without sitting here to be addressed about the criticism. And you don't anyone needs to answer that, but we just need all to think about this. He can just walk away from all of this.
Thank you.
Can I say something about it? I think there's been, I think it's really important for, as he was a CEO, to address the criticism, but I also really want to state that right now he physically couldn't, that he's in a burnout, and it wasn't possible for him.
One second. Because now only wait. People, wait. Can I have the attention, please? Because this is the last thing I want, that people start talking towards each other and not really focusing on what we're trying to do here. But wait, please. Again, Ash, as I'm just saying, hold your energy. We're almost there. Because the thing is, it's you speaking for him now. That should happen never, ever. We don't want you to speak for him. You should speak for himself. Because that's the only way this could actually be addressed. I don't want to hear what you have formulated and the let me put it this way. All of you know I'm a host here, was a host here. When my dad died, within a month I was working at the door. So, just to point out that it doesn't always have to be about your personal situation.
Yeah. I want to say thank you, Jeanette, for bringing that up, because I think that's what I've been feeling, and what I have find really difficult. And also where things went wrong the last years is that, like, let's talk about accountability. Like, if it has to come so far, you have a burnout, like, why not seeing that you cannot do it earlier in a way? So that's also white privilege.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong. The situation just then, if people really want to talk about it, the situation now with Ernst is that he's also at home and he's not involving himself in any other establishment he has in the city. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right.
And
so
it's not because of this; it's a way longer process.
no, just the reason why I am bringing it up is because we, as a community, we don't only go to this place, we also go to other establishments. And if other establishments are run by the same people, and these people feel, have the privilege to step away whenever they want, which again demonstrates demonstrates white privilege in this case. I would like to know, in order also to make myself feel safe and the community, that should these people be running establishment? That's a question I ask then. And it's not a question you need to answer, but think about it critically. All right, food for thought indeed.
Sorry, can I say one more thing? Because I think it was defensive and I wanted to take it up for Ernst, but I also, now I'm thinking about it and now we're talking about it, I think there's definitely, even if this is not possible for him to be there, there's different ways of engaging with it, and I think there would have been ways for him to address it.
Here.
Yeah.
All right. One thing I've written down on my PowerPoint was the school formulates a specific goal regarding the discussed topics, but obviously, as you can see, or how I'm feeling the energy in the room, I don't think this is something that is able or can happen right now, because there are so many layers that haven't been discussed because of the time frame. So I would want to pressure the school even to come up with this on a later time. But for now, it's going to be quite hard. So I'm also not going to put the public through that. However, the commitment and the time frame and the consequences is something we could end this conversation with right now. And what I mean with consequences is, I put a lot of time in this, as you know. You know why I put a lot of time in this. It's also because I felt I work here, or I worked here. I was asked to work here. I didn't want to work here, and as in, oh my God, school is such a nice club. I really want to be the host there. No, not necessarily. It's the people who came forward to me that sparked my joy, and also made me come here for the job. But what is the consequence of this whole podcast now? How are we going to move forward? And what consequence can we link to that? And how does it play with the commitment you have, the actual commitment, and the time frame in which we are going to be seeing these changes in order to still say, we were all rooting for you? You know.
Shall I start?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we have been talking about what are we gonna do the coming 2 weeks. Well, we changed, or the office has changed. That's what I have to say, because 2 women of color demanded a place. They have that place now. They wanted that place, and they are now part of it. They are gonna make a plan. This plan is not ready in 2 weeks, so we set a time frame of that we want to have an anti-racist policy with a well-written complaint procedure as well within 2 months.
Do you think it can be shorter instead of 2 months?
I would like to do that, but I mean.
No, just
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly before it opens, but I think also we need to do, of course, the cafe and the restaurant because we're talking a lot about the club, but we also need to consider those. They're also part of this neighborhood and they also have a responsibility in that. So yeah, we set it on 2 months right now. And
maybe one more thing, could you also clearly state what your involvement is going to be, a concrete action, and how you are going to facilitate these two women to really make sure that they are not doubted, are not questioned, are believed, trusted, and in which way can you facilitate them? That's a concrete thing you could, or a specific thing you could mention.
yeah, well, the first official concrete thing is by giving them a contract saying that.
All right.
So by giving them a contract saying that they have a say, and so we have actually something legal binded to come back to.
Are you aware that they're also crying in the backstage?
No, I'm not.
Are you aware that they're there and are not willing to stay here and talk to you guys? Because they don't feel safe, they don't feel heard, they feel still like a kind of token. And are they tokens to you guys?
Absolutely not.
Our words, everything we wrote online for the last week, you're repeating our
The thing is, they're in the back. And did you know that? Did you know that they were in the back, and they don't want to come out?
I didn't.
That's big trauma.
One at a time, please.
I just want to add something. For the past 2.5 hours, I feel like I've been hearing the same things from the three of you. I've been hearing my words, I've been hearing their words, I've been hearing our words through your mouth. And I've just been waiting for you to be honest and for you to show us your feelings, because you've seen me break down and cry so many times to try to save this place. And you're still like sitting there acting like this is some kind of, you know, formal setting kind of thing. Like, there's so much emotions in this room, but where are your emotions? Yes. Like, I'm wondering, like, are you holding back? Or do you not feel what we're feeling? Is it a question of empathy? Is it a question of, like, I don't know, misunderstanding? Is it, what is it? Where are your, Lon, Jochem, Luke, how do you feel about what's happening? How do you feel, honestly?
I feel really horrible at the moment.
I think
If
we
you
kind
really
of
want to
feel
know.
all the same and we express it in different ways, but I think we have been...
What do you feel? Not we. What do you feel?
I feel the same. I didn't sleep for the last couple of weeks. Like, this whole thing is also for me draining, but like, I try to wake up every day to come up with new plans and try to think about new ways to comfort everyone and make sure that we make a change, because we want to, all of us, and we go towards a new start.
All right. I'm just going to chip in here because, yeah, I think it's just time for the consequence. And the reason why I really want to, I've already communicated this towards you. I've done it this morning as well. And for me, let me put it this way: in my in my profession as a teacher, when I talk with my kids, I always make them formulate the consequences for their actions, because I feel if I am the one formulating the consequences for their actions, they will never ever understand what the repercussions are of their actions. So this is also the reason why I'm not formulating these consequences, or why I'm asking the community to formulate these consequences. But you as a company, also towards your employees who are crying right now, who feel that they aren't being heard, or whose words are being taken, and being used without a certain acknowledgement. So for me, and maybe if the people would like to let me know as well, if they agree with this, I think a consequence just needs to follow from this before we even talk about future things, because a consequence is also holding people accountable for the fact that a lot of people have been feeling quite emotional and drained, including myself. And it's almost rude to not even ask for a consequence. So, is there anything that comes to mind that you could formulate without thinking of 16 things that you have to take into account? Because this is the only thing you need to take into account, is that you're dealing with people, and a lot of people as well.
I think really for us now the most important thing is to talk with the staff and with our colleagues again, and
will you be communicating the consequence after you've talked with your staff, if that's the time you need?
Sorry, I'm.
And what I mean is, I might be able to understand that it's quite hard for you now to come up with a consequence without consulting everyone else. But what I would like to know, because this podcast was revolving around transparency. So the follow-up would be, are you willing to share the consequences you've spoken about with the whole team and communicate this to the outside world? What the consequences are of us having a plan, me setting up an editorial committee to do this together as a community, also show other people from the community that it's not me wanting to be on the foreground, but that it's just me speaking with people, and then also having them trust me to stand here and do this with them. The consequence is so important, and the transparency about it. So are you willing, and that's a yes or no question, will you communicate the consequence of this podcast after meeting with your whole staff and listening to what they have to say, and not doubting what they want to see, and accept that it's not up to you anymore, but it's up to them and their feelings, because we're all, as I said, human beings, and a little empathy never hurt nobody.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yeah? All right. Cool. Then I would like to thank all of you for your time being here, for your presence, for everything I've heard from you, and also from the love that I've gotten from people, the love that I felt within the community as well, because everyone is talking, and that for me personally, that's a very important point, that people start talking with each other, start holding these institutions, and not only the school, but also other institutions accountable, because the school is one place, but as we know, there are multiple places. I'm an educator. For me, it's every school I go to, every what's it called, canteen, where I assemble with my fellow teachers who feel that they are educating people, but in the end still think that it's okay for them to call me the N-word, call me the M-word, as in referring to my ethnicity and whatsoever. So this is, for me, the only good outcome for right now, speaking from a personal point of view, and also probably from my editorial point of view, committee point of view, is that we are coming together as a community. We are learning from each other as a community. So thank you for that. Thank you for your energy and your time. First, initially, my plan was to talk about following podcasts, talk about how the editorial committee is set up, but I'm going to leave that for now. I will communicate it if people are interested in that. I am free and I'm approachable. And the future is, for now, it's too uncertain to even talk about it. And I also want to give them time to process this. But as we said, the consequence will be that you're going to meet with the team, and what comes from that is not going to be filtered. It's not going to be adjusted. It's going to be as it is from your team, communicated towards the public, so we don't lose all faith after today. Yeah?
Thank you so
all
much.
right.
For
Thank
all
you,
the effort.
everybody. Thank you.